I still remember the exact moment everything changed. It was late evening, the kind of quiet evening when the city lights start glowing, but the streets are still half asleep. I had just finished a long day at work and stopped by a small cafe near my apartment. It was my usual place, dim lights, soft music, and the smell of fresh coffee lingering in the air. I wasn't expecting anything unusual that night. I ordered my usual black coffee and sat by the window, scrolling through emails on my phone. Outside, people passed by quickly, each lost in their own world. Then the door opened. At first, I didn't look up. The soft bell above the cafe door rang, and I assumed it was just another customer. But something made me glance toward the entrance. And that's when my heart skipped a beat. Emma. For a second, I thought I was imagining things. After all, it had been 6 years since I last saw her. 6 long years filled with unanswered questions, regrets, and memories I had tried very hard to bury. But there she was. She looked almost the same, yet different. Her hair was a little shorter, her face a little more mature, but those eyes, those same deep brown eyes that once knew every secret I had. The moment our eyes met, time seemed to stop. I quickly looked away, my heart suddenly pounding in my chest. Of all the places in the world, why here? I hoped she wouldn't recognize me. Maybe she would just order something and leave. Maybe this moment would pass like nothing ever happened. But fate clearly had other plans. A few seconds later, I heard footsteps approaching my table. My hands tightened around my coffee cup before I slowly looked up. She was standing right in front of me. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The air between us felt heavy, filled with years of silence. Daniel, she finally said softly. Hearing my name from her lips again set a strange chill down my spine. I forced a small smile. Emma, I didn't expect to see you here. She let out a quiet breath, almost like she had been holding it in for years. Neither did I. For a few awkward seconds, we just stood there, looking at each other like strangers who once knew everything about one another. Then she gestured toward the empty chair. Can I sit? Part of me wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to leave the cafe immediately and pretend this never happened. But another part of me, the weaker, more honest part, still wanted to hear her voice. So I nodded. She sat down slowly, placing her purse beside the chair. I noticed her hands trembling slightly. 6 years, she murmured, almost to herself. Yeah, I replied quietly. The waitress came over, breaking the tension for a moment. Emma ordered tea, and when the waitress left, the silence returned. So how have you been? She asked. The question sounded simple, but it carried the weight of everything we had lost. I'm okay, I said. Work life, you know. She nodded slowly. I heard you moved to the city, she said. I frowned slightly. You heard. She looked down at the table. Some people still talk. That made me uneasy. How about you? I asked. She hesitated before answering. I got married. The words hit me harder than I expected. Even though 6 years had passed, even though I had tried to move on, hearing that still felt like a small knife twisting in my chest. Oh, I said quietly, that's good. But something about the way she looked told me the story wasn't that simple. She stared at her hands for a long moment before speaking again. I got divorced last year. That surprised me. I'm sorry, I said. She shook her head gently. It's okay, some things just aren't meant to last. The way she said it made me feel like she wasn't talking about the marriage. For a while we talked about small things, work, the city, mutual friends. But underneath every word was something unspoken, something heavy. Finally, Emma looked directly into my eyes again. Daniel, can I ask you something? Sure. Did you ever hate me? The question caught me completely off guard. Hate you? I repeated. She nodded slowly. for leaving like that. 6 years ago, Emma had disappeared from my life almost overnight. No explanation, no goodbye, just a short message saying she needed to leave. Back then, I had spent months trying to understand why. I leaned back in my chair and sighed. For a while, yeah, I admitted, I was angry. Her eyes filled with emotion. I deserved that. But eventually, I continued, I stopped trying to figure it out. She looked surprised. Why? Because sometimes, I said quietly, answers don't change anything. The cafe felt strangely quiet around us. Emma looked at me like she wanted to say something important, but the words were stuck somewhere inside her. Finally, she whispered, I wanted to tell you the truth. My heart skipped. What truth? She hesitated. Then she reached across the table and gently touched my hand. The moment her fingers brushed mine, a rush of old memories flooded back. She looked straight into my eyes. And then she said the words that made my entire world freeze. You were always my weakness. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My mind struggled to process what she had just said. What do you mean? I asked slowly. Emma looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. I left because I knew if I stayed, I would never be able to let you go. For several seconds, I just stared at her. Emma's words echoed in my mind again and again. You were always my weakness. I didn't know what to say. After all these years of silence, that was the last thing I expected to hear. I slowly pulled my hand back from hers, not because I wanted to, but because I needed space to think. That doesn't make sense, I said quietly. She nodded slightly, as if she had expected that reaction. I know. Then explain it to me, I said, my voice a little firmer now. Emma took a deep breath. Her eyes moved around the cafe like she was searching for courage somewhere in the room. 6 years ago, she began, when we were together, everything felt too real. I frowned. Too real? Yes, she looked back at me. You were the only person who ever saw me for who I actually was. I didn't interrupt. Something told me she had been carrying this story for a long time. My family never approved of us, she continued. You remember that. Of course, I remembered. Her parents were wealthy, powerful people. I was just a regular guy with an average job and big dreams that didn't impress anyone with money. They kept telling me I was ruining my future, she said softly. They said if I stayed with you, I would lose everything. I felt a familiar bitterness rise in my chest. So you believed them? No, she shook her head immediately. That was the problem. I looked confused. Emma leaned forward slightly. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you, she said. My chest tightened. I left because I loved you too much. The words hit me like a shock. That doesn't make sense either, I muttered. She gave a sad smile. It will. The waitress brought her tea, but Emma barely touched it. She continued staring at me like she was trying to make sure I understood every word. My parents gave me a choice, she said quietly. What choice? Her voice almost broke. They said if I stayed with you, they would destroy your life. I felt a cold wave run through my body. What are you talking about? They had connections, she said. Your job, your future opportunities, they could make sure you never succeeded anywhere. I wanted to believe she was exaggerating, but deep down, I knew people like her parents had that kind of power. So I did the only thing I thought would protect you, she said. You disappeared, I said bitterly. She nodded. I thought if you hated me, you would move on and build a better life. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process everything. For years, I had believed she simply chose another life over me. Now she was telling me she left to protect me. That was your plan, I asked. Yes. And the marriage? Emma looked away. That was their condition. My stomach dropped. They arranged it. Not officially, she said, but they made it very clear what they expected. So you married someone you didn't love. She nodded slowly. And it didn't last. No. Silence filled the space between us again. Part of me felt angry. Another part felt something much deeper, something painful and complicated. You should have told me, I said finally. Her eyes filled with tears. I wanted to. Then why didn't you? Because if you had known, she whispered, you would have fought them. She was right. I would have. And knowing myself back then, I probably would have lost everything trying. Emma wiped a tear from her cheek. After the divorce, she said, I started thinking about you again. I laughed quietly. You started thinking about me. I never stopped, she corrected. That sentence hit me harder than anything else she had said. For 6 years, I had tried to forget her. Meanwhile, she had been carrying the same memories. So why come here tonight? I asked. She looked around the cafe. I didn't plan this, she said. I just moved back to the city last week. Really? Yes. Then she looked at me again, her voice soft. But maybe fate planned it. I didn't answer. Emma hesitated for a moment before speaking again. Daniel, there's something else you should know. I felt a strange tension in my chest. What? She looked nervous now. The kind of nervous that meant something important was coming. When I left 6 years ago, I wasn't alone. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Emma swallowed slowly. I was pregnant. Everything inside me froze. For a moment, the entire world around me disappeared. The quiet music in the cafe, the people talking at other tables, the sound of cups and plates, everything faded into the background. All I could hear was one sentence echoing in my mind. I was pregnant. I stared at Emma, trying to understand what she had just said. You're serious? I asked slowly. She nodded. My heart started racing. You mean my child? Her eyes softened as she looked at me. Yes. I ran my hand through my hair, completely overwhelmed. You're telling me I've been a father for 6 years and I didn't even know. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I wanted to tell you so many times. Then why didn't you? I asked, my voice rising slightly before I forced myself to calm down. Emma looked down at the table again. Because my parents made sure you would never find out. My chest felt tight. And the man you married. He thought the baby was his, she said quietly. That sentence made my stomach twist. But when the truth started coming out, everything fell apart. I took a deep breath. So where is the child now? Emma wiped her tears and looked back at me. She's at home. My heart skipped again. She? Emma nodded with a small smile. Her name is Lily. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Somewhere in this city, there was a little girl who had my blood, my DNA, my life. What is she like? I finally asked. Emma's expression softened instantly. She's curious about everything. She asks 1,000 questions every day. I couldn't help smiling a little. That sounds dangerous. Emma laughed softly through her tears. And she's stubborn. Like you. Exactly like me. We both sat there quietly for a moment. Then Emma said something that caught me off guard. She looks like you. My chest tightened again. Does she know about me? Emma hesitated. She knows there's someone important I haven't told her about yet. I leaned forward. Why didn't you come find me earlier? She took a deep breath. Because I didn't know if you would hate me. I was silent for a moment. 6 years of anger, confusion, heartbreak. And now suddenly everything had changed. Finally, I sighed. I don't hate you, I said quietly. Emma looked up at me surprised. You do? No. I paused before continuing. But I wish things had been different. Her eyes filled with emotion again. So do I. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I asked the question that had been building inside me since she revealed the truth. Emma, why tell me now? She looked directly into my eyes. Because Lily deserves to know her father. The words hit me deeply. And I asked carefully. Emma hesitated. And because I never stopped loving you. My heart skipped again. She quickly added, I'm not saying that to pressure you. I just wanted you to know the truth. The cafe lights reflected softly in her eyes. For years, I had imagined what it would be like to see Emma again. But I never imagined this. You're asking me to become part of her life, I said slowly. Emma nodded. Yes. And maybe yours again. She didn't answer immediately. But her silence said everything. I looked out the cafe window for a moment, watching the city lights glow in the darkness. 6 years ago, I lost the woman I loved without understanding why. Tonight she had come back into my life, with a daughter I never knew existed. It felt unreal. Finally, I looked back at Emma. When can I meet her? I asked. Emma's eyes widened slightly. You want to? I gave a small smile. She's my daughter. For the first time that night, Emma's face lit up with real happiness. She's going to ask you a lot of questions, she warned. I'm ready. She laughed softly. You say that now. I stood up from the table and grabbed my jacket. Emma looked confused. Where are you going? I held out my hand toward her. Let's go meet Lily. She stared at my hand for a moment like she couldn't believe this was real. Then slowly she took it. As we walked toward the cafe door together, I felt something strange in my chest. For years, I thought Emma had been the biggest heartbreak of my life. But now I realized something else. She had also been the beginning of the life I never knew I had. And maybe, just maybe, the story between us wasn't over yet.